Welcome to your favorite YouTube channel, Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piskor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
Uncle Steve Rude is in the house. Jimmy, lay down some of that bibliography and let's jump right into things.
Man, you would think it would start and stop with Nexus, but he has done all kinds of books. Space Ghost, Mr. Miracle Special, World's Finest, Hulk vs. Superman, The Moth, and Russ Manning, Kirby, Eisner, and Harvey Award winner Steve Rude. Welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe.
Yeah, hey, it's cool, guys. Ready to talk.
So we think of you one of the consummate drawers in comics, and one of the things I'm curious about is like what does a work day look like for you? I feel like there's so much artwork that you must do that nobody gets to see.
Well, I've actually got a closet full of art downstairs. I live in a two-story house in Phoenix, Arizona. And when we moved into this house, we needed a lot of room. And there's two things that I needed. One is a storage area and a garage. We have a three-car garage. One of them has been converted into the Rude Dude merchandise studio. And then I needed a huge studio because I figured this will be my final studio in life. And we found a converted game room, which is huge. And I'm hoping to take you on a tour of that later on once I detach this little cord here to show you where I work and my different stations and how I do what I do and where I do it. And so I needed those things and I got those things. So, but a typical work day is, when I was younger, I had an incredible aversion to mornings. Like the idea, I was thinking about, my mom was pushing me to get out of the house because I was a nuisance. And she said, why don't you think about going into the Army, Steve? And so I actually went down and talked to one of the recruiting guys, and I didn't like him. He was all superficial and glib and all that. And I don't like people like that. But my friends were worried about me being kind of an upstart. And I'm only an upstart with authority. I don't like authority. I don't like people telling me what to do. Whereas I was worried about getting up too early. The idea of getting up early was just horrifying to me. So that was on my mind, but everyone else was not. That was the least of their worries. Now I get up at like 5:30. Like those are Mike Barron hours. He's always kept those. So go figure, right? From the age of 18 to like 66 that I'm at right now, things change over the decades. Have you guys noticed that?
Oh yeah, I've become a day walker in recent years myself.
Yeah. Who can figure that?
So when you get up and you get busy, you get a little fitness in and then get to the drawing board, or I in my mind's eye, because I know people who have seen your sketchbooks who worked with you over the years for some of those animation pitches and things, and they rest eyes on those sketchbooks, and it sounds like you are putting pencil to paper or paintbrush to paper a good chunk of your day.
It's on and off. The sketchbooks have been a compulsion of mine since I was like 18. I think people kind of fit into two categories with sketchbooks. One is they just don't do them because they don't like to do them. I thrive on them. I don't think I could exist without them. To me, they're an outlet, and they're as important to me as they're more important to me than the actual work because all the learning I do is in the sketchbooks. So any conceivable thing that I can dream up or conjure, that goes in a sketchbook. I've got it right here actually. This is let me see what log this is right here. This is what the cover looks like of the latest one. Did you guys recognize that artist right there? 10 points if you know who that is.
Yeah, no.
You're too young. Peter Max from the 60s. This guy was all the rage. Everyone from my generation knows who this guy is. On the back, you definitely recognize this guy here.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
That's on the back of my book right here. So what do we have here? Log number 38. And I started out with a Dean Cornwell illustration there. And I date them. And lately I've been putting little fortune cookie things in there that I get from Panda Express. On the back, or on the front rather, I kind of do a last year wrap. everything that's happened to me. I kind of chronicle the adventures of the Rude family, and I'm sure I made a notation here about the show, as I call it, the Nexus cartoon show that I've been working on for 40 years, and how there still is no show. Um, Family matters, work, the show, till next year, the dude, things like that. These are basically visual diaries. So what's on the next page here? On the
You
next
could tell
page, we
me.
have some Rockwell studies. This is a study from one of my favorite artists, Harry Anderson. This is from Leyendecker, but it's a line art study.
Do you try to match their tools?
What's that?
Do you try to match their artistic
No, I don't.
implements?
I don't. I mean, most of these guys worked in oil, and I don't want to work in oil. So this is either watercolor or acrylic of some kind. In fact, there it is right there. That's the Leyendecker thing that I worked from and converted it into line down there. So whatever I feel like doing, whatever I have the urge to practice with, that's what I do. And you can recognize this pen and ink style from, the turn of the century here, from way back when. Here's more of those studies. If I turn the page here, there's a black and ink wash thing of the Bride of Frankenstein. Everyone knows that. And of course, Marilyn over here. That's done in watercolor and colored pencil, a technique I've been working feverishly on for the last 4.5, 5 years. And this is just something I liked right here that I pasted in. It's a great design. See, it's pure design.
Yeah.
It's just masses of color. So I love that kind of stuff. You want to see more?
All day, man.
Okay.
Whenever you're interpreting something, is there a conscious thing in your mind, like, okay, with this piece, lighting is the focus, or this hard angle to draw the face?
Yeah, on occasion, like this, like the Leyendecker thing right here, the baby, his forms, his rhythms and his forms are of great interest to me. Where he puts the highlights, he's got incredible rhythm to his drawings. And if you're versed in classical illustration, you'll know exactly what I mean. Everything is connected, all the forms. There's a big form, and then there's little forms within those forms, and they're all connected. And that's something I learned when I moved to California, when I went to Art Center for a year, and then I went to the Calabasas School for another year. So actually Art Center, I think, was half a year. And within 1 year of moving to California, I kind of achieved my goal of filling in all the blank spots that I didn't know about, because it was a hardcore school and the teacher was so good. This right here is a miniature of this commission that I did, this MASH commission. When I look at the repro, it looks seamless, but in fact, I struggled with it. And that's another thing I'd like to expose myself to with other artists, is how hard some pieces come. Some pieces drive me crazy. I encounter snags, and those are things that I don't try to hide behind. I tell people about them, because that's important for people to know how hard some pieces come, and how you have to struggle through them to get to pull them off. This one right here, I don't know exactly what that was about, but I think that was from my photo library, this scrap file or reference file, and I just liked it. So I thought I'd try it. It's just kind of practice stuff right here. And I did it on the illustration board, so you can't paste that in. So you just make a color Xerox and paste it in.
Do you keep a practical morgue file? The same morgue file that you had in the 80s. You continue to add to it. Cartoonist Kayfabe is brought to you by the books that we make. The Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus is out sooner than later. It's going to be in your stores, but it's not going to be there for long. Scoop it up. X-Men Grand Design Trilogy trade paperback coming to you in November. There are 2 trade paperbacks of Red Room out there right now. Trigger Warnings, and the Antisocial Network, with Crypto Killers trade paperback coming to you in January. Jimmy has a few copies of Hulk Grand Design at stores right now, but it is sold out at the publisher level, so if you see it, scoop it up. Jimmy's going to be having a big sale October 26th with a bunch of self-published stuff, including True Crime Funnies, the 1986 zine that has been available nowhere, so this will be the first time you get your hands on it, and the BW zine. And of course, final order cutoff is coming soon for Street Angel Princess of Poverty trade paperback, which is going to collect all of Jimmy's Street Angel comics that are not in Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, which you also should have on your racks right now, or get it. Now that we're done paying the bills, back to the video.
Yeah, I started that back in the late 70s. And this right here was, I think I set that up in my studio. I just like the way it looks, and I painted it from life. This is some animation stuff that I liked. See, everything is game for me. Anything that I like, I study pretty much everything because everything is related to me, and I just find it fascinating.
Steve, are you drawing from like the screen at times? Or are you looking this stuff up?
No, I don't know how to work with screen. No, I've never quite gotten used to that. So I don't use that. It's too newfangled for me. So I just, but I do have, if I want something that's going to be on screen, I just tell Janelle or Jessica, I say, look up something for me, and I'll find it, and I'll just say print it out. So they do that, and then I just shove it in my physical file here. And that works out good. So instead of clipping from magazines all the time, like I used to, there's an added benefit from working from the computer reference files, which is a great thing.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're not the one doing the screen work, because whenever I see those studies in the sketchbook, it makes me think it's concentration on a level that I feel I struggle with,
yeah,
and probably younger people struggle with, because it's so distracting to go through, say, a Google image search and see, hundreds of this artist that you're looking up or whatever, as opposed to finding an image and then like, okay, I'm going to go work. This is the study. This is focus on the technique or recreation rather than let me look at 2,000 images.
Right.
Yeah, I can see how that can get really distracting. I mean, if you've got a resource that's got 100 billion things on it, and that's, I remember my first teacher, Mr. Campen, back when I was in my early 20s, he explained what the term inertia meant. But it's a funny thing because it means two different things. A body in motion stays in motion, and then a body at rest stays at rest. So I think we should differentiate the terms. Inertia 1 and inertia 2. That can make up your mind, inertia, right? So once you're hooked into that thing where you're looking up stuff, you don't want to stop looking. You want to keep going. So you have to willfully stop yourself and keep your eye on the big picture and just cut it off. And that's not easy. Human nature is something where once you're into something, you want to keep going. So use that in a smart way, not a dumb way.
Totally. Steve, I believe it's issue of Foom has a piece of very early Steve Rude fan art. Is that your first printed piece, or were you part of fanzine culture before that at all?
Well, that was when I was in high school, and I was really obsessed with collecting back issues of stuff that I had missed, because I wasn't a collector of comics. I was what I did was I would read my friends' comics. They would buy them, and I would read them. And I was just so into Spider-Man, the Romita Spider-Mans, and of course all the Jack Kirby work. But I entirely missed out in Kirby's move to DC in 1970. So in high school, when I missed all that stuff, I heard about the Buyer's Guide for Comic Fandom. And I thought, wow, this is great. I can buy all these old issues here for 50 cents to $1. And I remember I was living up in a very small town in Upper Michigan. We called it the UP, Upper Peninsula, and this stuff would come in the mail, these giant manila envelopes, and I would get so excited, and I would run out to the mailbox, and the would be coming down, this beautiful snow, and or the fall leaves would be coming down, and I just remember those days so fondly. And I would open up these envelopes and see these treasures, and I would just my imagination would just go crazy, and I would pull these books out that I would order and start drawing from them. But there's a lot of people that these fourth world books, they didn't speak to a lot of people. Well, they spoke to me very clearly. And there's actually some quotes in those books that are so profound. I actually kind of live by their message. But a lot of people don't get that. So you have to be tuned into a different frequency to really get them. And the fact that Infantino considered them failures. Well, was this guy ever really in tune to what those books were really all about? I mean, the fact that he cut them short is kind of criminal to me. And he was not a smart man to do that. This should have been something that went way beyond sales. This was a historic thing that was never really going to be ever equaled as a feat of creativity. And he cut it short. And that killed Jack in a lot of ways. In fact, I can't think of anyone who was more abused than the single greatest creator in comics that ever lived, than that creator, Jack Kirby. Now, that's really something to think about, isn't it?
Yeah,
the guy who gave the most got treated the worst.
yeah, totally. Like the idea of Kirby's artwork being kept by Marvel and not given back. It's been floated by academic scholars like Jeet here. He sent us a note and said that this could be the biggest art theft in the history of mankind. If you add up the sum total of all of those pages that did not get back into Jack's hands and got filtered into the market, that's not a light statement. And if you do the math on some of the stuff that goes for $600,000 a piece, what do you think Avengers 1 cover or Fantastic Four 1 cover is going for? Like this is maybe billions of dollars of artwork. So of course,
eventually, yeah, it'll be going for that someday. Yeah,
Steve, when did you
art
start?
does not depreciate.
When did you start to recognize that Jack Kirby had been abused? Were you a working professional, or were you younger? Were you a kid whenever you were like?
Well, you just kind of pick up on little things, and it's so funny because actually it's anything but funny, but because the higher profile the creator, the more fear they invoke, because Kirby was so powerful and had done so much and gave so much. They actually kind of reverse their generosity to him, because if they gave him what he deserved, then it was almost like admitting that they were giving him the credit he deserved. And you know how people are; they're just cruel and ruthless. They will wipe people's names out of history if they're so inclined to be so petty. They do this all the time. That's what people are like. And then when they start to become in favor again, they'll bring the names back. And that's the nature of people. They're incredibly bizarre that way, but they think very small. And unfortunately, the people they decided to take that abuse on were the most giving people of our industry that there ever was. But in time that changes, and now they're giving him all these awards, and he's back in favor, and everyone loves him again. But at the time Jack was still alive, I don't got to tell you how badly they treated him. It's pathetic, isn't it? It's human nature it's bad human nature. Good human nature is the opposite.
Did that inform your decision to do a book like Nexus? It's something I wanted to ask you about. You spend so much of your career as independent doing creator-owned work, and I have to imagine Marvel and DC and writers were just coming to you with projects. I consider you one of the greatest superhero comic book artists of all time, so I assume there were offers to come on over, do more Marvel, do more DC, but you did a lot of your work as independent creator-owned work. Is that a result of looking at abuses by those big companies?
Well, I think the first time was deliberate about that was when I was offered the X-Men, and that was back in the mid '80s by Chris Claremont, whom I like a lot. And I turned it down because it was just the wrong thing to do. I could feel internally it was wrong. I was giving some credit to people I didn't think it was the wrong move politically and internally. That's not what I stood for. What I stood for was something beyond just going over and doing a book that would have made me a lot of money, but it would have been selling out. And I'm not inclined to be that kind of person. Money has never been a factor to me. What I want, Nexus to me is a Marvel book because everything I grew up loving, observing, and feeling came from the 1960s Marvel books from Stan and Jack. So that is a Marvel book to me. But it was only from that decade. Everything after that got watered down and kind of sent into the ether and kind of dissolved in a lot of impure ways. And the way they are now is unrecognizable. So whenever you consent to do something for these big companies, you're endorsing this kind of stuff. When the 2000s came along and I did all these Marvel miniseries, that was my way of putting my stamp on things. So it was better to do it than not to do it. I had my chance to do the Kirby versions and the Romita version of Spider-Man. I was very proud of those things. So it was far better to do them than not to do them, because people saw them, and for the guys that knew the influences, it would harken back to the memories that I had for doing those books in the first place. And for the guys that didn't know them, they would be curious. Where did this sensibility come from? And they're going to start investigating, like everyone who didn't grow up on those things. And then there'd be this cause and effect that would take place. And that's what you want to do as you age. When we were young, we didn't know anything about these things that we know about now. But the generation older than us taught us through what they did. And they begot us. Now we beget someone else. And then someday, those guys we begot are going to begot someone else, and on it goes. So the chain of posterity is critical to me as in the age that I'm at now, and what I stand for in the work that I do with the Nexus books at this time.
So when did Toth get on your radar?
Actually, I didn't even know who he was. I was told that some Alex guy designed Space Ghost, and I didn't even know who that was. But I was such a fan of Space Ghost growing up. It just hit this 6-minute cartoon show had all the elements that got me really excited when I was younger. And I still look at some of these episodes and get really revved up because I've examined them through the eyes of someone who's been an artist, comic book artist, and illustrator for all these years. And some of those episodes, especially the ones that Alex laid out, show an incredible amount of work and attention to the craft that made some of these episodes, the really good ones, what they were. And Alex himself had nothing good to say about the show, but who does that surprise?
Right.
He didn't like anything. I remember I got him on the phone one time, and first time I ever talked to him, he was very gracious. Of course, that's just a one-time call. Call number 2 was like, get off the phone, you son of a bitch, kind of a thing. That's the way he always is. That's his MO, and everyone knows that. you can't sustain a relationship with a manic depressive and whatever else category he fell into. But at that time, he was caught him in a good mood, and we had a nice talk. And when I brought up Space Ghost, he goes, "No, no, I didn't like that one. But Space Angel, that's the one I liked." I thought, "What is Space Angel?" So I knew nothing about this stuff. But slowly but surely, you accumulate this knowledge of who did what, and then you start seeing the model sheets, and this piece by piece, and info by bits of info, you start to accumulate what you're supposed to do with your lifetime, which is accumulate knowledge of your chosen field, so you can get smarter and smarter about your craft and make yourself better and better.
Did you know that you wanted to make comics whenever you went to art school?
By the time I got into high school, I was pretty set. The high school years were very formidable. Formidable? What's the word?
Formative.
Formative. Yeah, there you go. And they were formidable too.
Yeah, sure.
Um, that's the age. I was always bubbling with intensity. Incredible volcanic intensity. I don't know how many people detected that, but when I would read the Gacy Master of Kung Fu's or some of the Kirby books, I was just in this volcanic lava mode. When I would read these things, they would affect me so deeply because I was tuned into a different wavelength than most people, and when I would read these things, the effect in them would be profound, and it was so deep that when I had my chance to finally start attempting to do what my influences did, I had the mindset, but I didn't have the abilities. So it took years. Gacy was somebody who was my idol in high school from strictly a master of Kung Fu. This guy got into the business at like 21 or 20 or whatever. I was barely eligible to be even in the pro ranks at 24. I actually wasn't. So that just goes to show that I was a fairly average talent. I was above average to even get in at that age. But as Gacy kind of incrementally improved, exponentially changed and improved with issue to issue, that was something that I was able to showcase when I got into the field. You can see from the black and white issues of Nexus till finally the color issue came along. There's a noticeable improvement and change, and so you're kind of caught in the act. You're kind of chronicled in a way that in print for all to see for all times, the improvements that can take place. Now, after a while, those improvements are much more subtle. There's no gigantic leap that takes place anymore, unless you get worse, which is always an option. A lot of people just descend after like 20 years. I'm sure you guys know the artists that you would pick out in that category. But I would say there's nothing that says you have to get better and better. If you do get, I think it's just enough to maintain your standards and never drop. And you want to do that for a couple of reasons. One, you don't want to let your fans down. If you let your fans down, well, we're all fans, and we know what it feels like to have our favorite artists drop their standards. But it can be kind of devastating. Well, there's another guy that's going to let us down. We depend on these guys to deliver great work for us, but now they're not. So that's a real letdown. We don't have those people to count on anymore. And the other reason is, well, I'm trying to think. There is another reason. I can't think of it right now. What's the other reason you never want to lower your standards?
I feel like it's pretty personal.
It doesn't have anything to do with getting work. I don't think about it like that. I just think it's a disgrace to yourself.
Yeah.
To have that happen.
Yeah, it can personally erode you, I think, if you're not pushing yourself to grow, you know, it does. I do think that can be a corrosive thing on, you know, on who you are. You know, if you're cutting corners, you know, if you're not pushing yourself to improve and keep working
Well,
hard.
I wonder about that. You know, when I've confronted people, you know, I'm not one to let people just slide when I see them doing that. Um, there's two ways you can deal with it. You can ignore it and just pretend it's not there. Well, that's what everyone does. You know, they just, well, he's just kind of going through this thing and he's not is interested in pushing himself anymore. And well, I don't want to go that route. That's too easy. So I actually, you know, tell people, I said, what the hell's going on? You know, what can you see what's happening to your work? And they're going to get all defensive and yell at you and all this kind of stuff. But later on, if they have any sincere interest in in stopping that process, that disintegration process, they're going to thank you for it. But most people do not see it. And that's the most alarming thing that I've noticed of all. They don't even see it happening. So because I'm so incredibly self-monitored, that's my only reason that I can think of for seeing that happen to others. Man, the hell if that's ever going to happen to me.
Well, Steve, tell us about when you got feedback from Toth, when you sent him some samples. You know, very famous correspondence when he was very very critical of the work. What was that feedback like?
Well,
And how early was that in your career? Also, I don't exactly know the timeline of that.
yeah, well, when the Kamiko Johnny Quest came out, uh, when the Kamiko Johnny Quest came out, whatever the year that was, I think that was '86. That's when I sent Alex. I was always interested in getting critiques, so I sent those pages off to Alex, and he sent me, you know, this like 5 or 6 page thing back. And this is hardly unique to me. Whenever anyone has sent something off, they get. I mean, you could sit on the right hand of God, and He would blast you for something. But there's two things I remember that stood out from that critique. One of them was a reversal of camera direction. Well, that doesn't apply to comics. But Alex is so tuned into being as critical as possible. Like he's got this like list of rules that he uses as a defense, just to make people feel terrible, right? That's kind of what he's about, actually. So hiding behind the rules is part of what Alex does. Well, you can reverse direction all the time in comics, and it doesn't affect the story at all. In film, it does, because you can't go back and look at the panel before it.
Right.
In fact, some of the most dynamic moves you can make in comics is reverse screen direction, because it startles people. It shocks people in a way that if you kept screen direction consistent, it wouldn't shock them nearly as much as when you reverse it. So the other thing he pointed out that was good was he goes, this Uzi is a spray weapon. It's not a aim and point. Well, fine. Well, to me it looked a little more dramatic to have that come up like that. That's like a just before you kill somebody moment. So what's better, to have them hold it like this or have them, you know, aiming like that, which is a telltale move of you're about to kill somebody. The biggest mistake he made, for the record, is he goes, what kind of camera is this, Steve? He goes, I'm a camera expert and I can't recognize this. Well, never mind that I told him that it wasn't a camera in the first place. It was a rangefinder that surveyors used and that was part of the equipment that Dr. Quest had when he was out there doing surveying in the desert area that he was assigned to work at. But you can't tell Alex that. In fact, when I tried to tell him that, you know, he blew up at me. So you're dealing with a guy with a mentality that is geared entirely towards being critical. There's no reasoning with him, and there's no correcting him. He's just there to criticize, to make you feel terrible. And there's a lot of people that are like that. Everyone that's ever met him, or even hasn't met him, has an Alex Toth story, and they're all similar. They don't waver from the things that I've just told you. He's there to hurt. And it wasn't until he was on his deathbed, when they finally shoved some medication into him, that he finally started to, uh, his brain chemistry changed a little bit. Because in his entire life, uh, he never once, there's a C word I'm trying to think of. Um, let's just call it, gave
Compassion.
into the fact that he might need some help.
Right.
So he didn't. And he stayed that way his whole life because he's too stubborn to admit that he might need some help. So he existed in a state of contention and misery his whole life.
Man, I have so many directions I want to go. While we're
Yeah,
talking Johnny Quest, I wonder about Doug Wildey. Was that an artist that influenced you, or that you admired his work? Was Johnny Quest, you mentioned Space Ghost. Was Johnny Quest one of the cartoons whenever you were younger that had an impact?
well, the interesting thing about being a kid back then was we never saw these shows in color, and we never once missed the fact that we weren't watching them in color. There were black and white TV sets about 20 inches high. And the other thing I remember about watching the show was the whole family used to watch it. The three rude kids, and then my mom and dad. We'd sit around the TV and watch that show. It would come on like 6:30 or whatever it was, and the whole family would watch the show and be entertained by it. So we're talking about a seminal influence here, a very early on influence. And as you get older, those influences become, they either go away or they become stronger. Well, for me, they became stronger. So you have to wonder sometimes, this whole idea of some people call it destiny. That's a little too average a term for me. It's a little too. I've heard it before. I like to make up my own words. Like, is a path predestined in some way? Is it meant to go a certain way from the very beginning? These are things we don't know. And I'm assuming that, even being an atheist, I think that the answers that you're going to find that are not known to you mortally as a mortal, you find out when you're dead. I think I read too many stories and heard too many firsthand and secondhand stories from people to believe that the answers come to you somehow when you die. All the things you're denied as a mortal human being, they come to you when you die. So, which is kind of silly, really. Like it'd be kind of nice to know them now while you're alive, instead of when you're dead and you can't do anything about it. So, who knows? But I think the only way we can register how much that's true is through our conscience. Your conscience is a thing that's a very bizarre thing. It tells you when you're doing something wrong and when you're doing something right. Now, what exactly is that thing all about? How can something within you be smarter than you are on the outside? To me, that's something, because it's something very internal and it's smarter than you are on the outside. What is that really all about? Because I remember when I would think about dating certain girls, my conscience would go out like crazy. It says, "Stay away from this woman. She's gonna kill you." And it was always right. When I met Janelle, it was all perfectly right, in a way that was so serene and so perfect. And of course, it was always right. You guys know, every living person listening to this knows exactly what I'm talking about, if they have any sense of anything in their life. We all know what that's like. So I'm asking them and you guys, what is that all about? So the path that we're on right now, the only path that's wrong in life is when you're not doing something with your life. When you're just kind of sitting there, smoking away and and drinking away, and you're just delaying something out of fear or whatever. And a lot of people do that with their lives. They destroy their lives, and that's an option. There's nothing that says you have to live a life and be productive. But are we going to be reincarnated if you live a life like that? If you destroyed your time here, are you going to come back and have a second chance? I wouldn't bet on that. I would just say, this is your only chance, and don't count on yourself coming back and getting a second chance, Jack. Use it now, and if you're able to, through whatever means, whatever earthly means you're able to find out, face what you are and change it. And there's nobody. Yeah, somebody will help you. Somebody somewhere maybe, but there's so few people that ever actually will come into your life and help you see what you're becoming, so you can change your life around. There should be way more people than there is like that. But really, it's really kind of just you that has to deal with it. Now, fortunately, I'm a real self-starter. So when I see people that are just kind of stagnating like that, I do everything I can to make them see what I'm able to do with my life, and maybe that'll affect them somehow.
Steve, did you have any periods professionally that you look back on and you think, you were going in the wrong direction, or, you look back and wish you had done something differently?
Well, I remember, and when I turned 50, I was at a crossroads. I didn't know what I was going to do. And for a while, I went into this fine art field. And I was there for about 5 years, and then I realized at the end of 5 years that I hated it. And it's mostly because of the people. I never got any kind of a real feedback. The people I realized they were incredible snobs. So that had a lot to do with my decision. If I had gotten a lot of positive feedback and pats in the back and things like that, but I never got that. And once I saw these elements for what they were, I got out. And I came back to what I really wanted to do, which is illustration and comic books. I think the pursuit of storytelling, graphically grabbing a pencil and putting down a story on paper I don't think there's anything that I would ever want to do with my life that would be a greater calling than that. Because the challenges in that are a lifetime worth of challenges. And there's no exhausting it. Every time you sit down and do a new story, it's almost like starting over again.
Can't agree more, man. There is a question that came up on the channel fairly recently. One of the things that we do here is go through the old Wizard magazines and kind of just track the speculator boom and stuff like that. They did a big feature on Nexus in, like, say, issue 50 something or other, and they mentioned that after First Comics goes away, that they explicitly said it in a way that suggested Mike Richardson bought the rights to Nexus and gave them back to you guys. Is that how it played out?
Yes. Yeah, and me and Barron had the wherewithal to say, we need to take an ad out in one of the trade magazines and thank him for that, which we did. Mike Richardson is a very generous human being, as opposed to the people who are not, which are legion.
Is that a situation where these guys priced the rights out of your range, personally?
Well, this is a situation of pure ignorance. Me and Barron both had the chance, and I blame this more on Barron than me. I was so stupid it wouldn't have mattered. But Barron was older and should have known better. I have no idea why he didn't wake up and say, why don't we own this thing? We did all the work. You turkeys just published it. So why he didn't step in and just say those very things, I don't know why. I think it was just plain brainwashing that he should have woken up to me. Um, so Capital had the rights. They never should have had them in the first place. They sold them to First. First was happy to take them. And then when we finally moved over to Dark Horse, somehow Mike Richardson had the generosity of spirit to um, buy the rights for God knows how much money and give them back to us. I mean, how often do you see that?
Was there anything attached to that? Like, here's the rights. Why don't you give me a mini series every year? Or is that implied?
No, not at all. No, I think he just. I mean, it was implied that he loved the character and wanted us to keep going with it. I mean, that's what we did, me and Baron. So of course we wanted to keep going with it. That was our lifeblood. That was our mark of sanity to keep going with the work that we were born to do and love to do and wanted to keep doing. So if we didn't keep doing that, what would we have in life? My whole identity is tied in with my work. So of course I'd want to keep doing it. And that's why I'm doing it to this day. It's everything that I am is tied into not just doing it, but how good it is. That's critical to me. Seeing how earlier I mentioned how some people just descend into oblivion. I mean, that's all the more important for me to never get into that category of what happened to this guy. That's just unthinkable to me. So yeah, Dark Horse, that they bought it up and they give it back to us. No strings.
What are the rights like now? Have you and Baron gone separate directions? Are you both doing your own Nexus at this point?
Yeah, when I formed Rude Dude in 1996, or was it 2006? I don't even remember. 1996, I think I formed Rude Dude, and me and Baron obviously were going to get back together. And I read his scripts and I thought, what the hell is this? I literally didn't understand the stories anymore. He made a left turn into an area that was I didn't know what the stories were even about anymore. And I showed him to the former editor of Dark Horse, Anina Bennett, and she goes, I don't know what these are about either. But I was just shocked to my core. And stupidly, for the next 15 years, I tried desperately to get Baron back on track. And nothing worked. So the lesson I learned from that is, I don't know what lesson I learned, except I wasted 15 years trying to talk him into being the old Baron. And then I had to go through this crisis of intellect, I guess you'd call it, where what am I going to do? Well, the only answer was I have to learn how to write. Did I ever want to learn how to write? No. Did I ever aspire to want to be a writer? No, never. I wanted Baron to give me his great stories, and it was never going to happen. So I went through a couple steps of trying to recruit people, a total of 12 people, and every one of them never even came close. So I was faced with a brick wall. Either learn how to write, or you're never going to be able to bring have Nexus back again. It was literally a brick wall. There's no getting around it. It was an impenetrable wall. So I reasoned things out, I guess in the way that Captain Kirk might. How would somebody go about learning how to write? Well, the answer is really more simple than most people might think about. If you take away the garbage and the blockage in your head that are only going to be there out of I guess thinking a certain way, and that is everyone is grown up seeing, reading, and watching stories their whole life. You know what you like, you know what you would want to read. So I got out 7 or so of my favorite this and that TV shows. I watched the TV shows, and I got out 6 of my favorite comics. And that was fun. I analyzed them. What's in these books right here that I've loved for the last 30 years? Why do these books stand up above all the rest? And it didn't come right away. It still hasn't come right away. I just know that what these books had was all the right stuff. So slowly, and agonizingly, I allowed myself to um, learn something that was that was not natural to me. Drawing is natural to me. Whatever part of your brain is adaptable to that part of the creative process was natural. Writing is in a different part of the brain that is probably pretty minimal to me. But you can learn these things. And so just like any other success story, it was incremental, baby steps. And as long as I held a sense of positivity and belief, it was okay. When I started to think negative, it crashed just like that. And there was a lot of moments of negativity. Like, who am I kidding here? I can't do this. I could never reach Barron's ability when he was giving me the best stories on earth. So it's still kind of like that. That can still creep in, but after all the work I put into this and all the minute to minute study that I'm always tuned into when I look at something or read something, okay, I mean, my brain is almost in tune to all the things that have to do with writing all the time. There's never a moment when it's turned off. So, given the last 4 years of thinking like that, you'll learn because you really want to learn, and your future is dependent on it. Do I want to let down a bunch of Nexus readers that are used to the great stories of Barron? No way. So you better rise. I better rise to it.
You mentioned earlier that Nexus was, like a Marvel comic from the 60s. Do you still view it that way, or is it something different now as you've gotten older and done more stories?
As I've gotten older, I don't really think of it. I think of it kind of as a progressive thing. Um, Working for Marvel and those guys working for Marvel was a finite run, wasn't it? Things change because it's because of the corporation strictures that were present in a company. It's for Nexus, it's just me. I'm the conductor of everything that goes on. I write it, draw it, supervise the coloring, letter it, produce it, publish it, see what kind of paper is the right thing for it. Literally everything. And that's the way I think the future of comics is going. I think when I think this whole thing where I want to work for Marvel, I want to work for DC is always going to be there, but I think it's growing arteries, and it's starting to branch out into different things that I think is probably the healthiest things I've ever heard about. You're not tied down to these companies anymore. There's this thing called self-publishing going on. It's been going on for a while now. And hit a button, go online. Oh, you can self-publish these books. Here's a place that will take your material and put it together in a book and staple it for you. And you can get 100 copies of your book and pass them out nowadays. And this isn't something that Kirby had in 1970 when he wanted to change the whole world with all these ideas he had. He couldn't do it back then. We can do it now. So honor the things that people back then wanted to do but couldn't. We can do them now, guys. And that's what I'm doing. I'm crowdfunded. Everything I do is based on how much money I get to sustain me as I sit here. And everything I make is due to the generosity to people that pledge money.
What's some of the new stuff you have on the horizon?
Everything I do is incredibly exciting. Super, can you get down the Nexus book up there? Can you reach that? Jessica is going to reach down and grab the first of many things that I've done as the sole conductor. Now, I don't know if you've seen this right here.
Oh yeah, we did an episode on it.
This is literally, and I've used this statement more than once. All I can do is call it the crowning moment of my career. It's 300 pages long. The story is 100 pages long, entirely done by me, even the lettering. And I loved every second of doing this. It was hard work, but everything everything that glows with pride is always because of hard work. The harder the work is, the more satisfaction you get out of something when you pull it off. And everything about it is, that's why I call it the crowning moment. Everything I've ever done has led up to this right here. And I'm just so proud of it. And word needs to get out, because it's unbelievable how many people write or call or whatever, and they say, there's new Nexus out. I didn't know that. So knowing that that's a prickly thing with me. I mean, even the store owners don't even know about it. So we've got to reverse that kind of thinking. In the meantime, we're re-releasing the book, so I can possibly get into the category of getting noticed by the award ceremonies going on. We're going to re-release that book right there with a new cover. And that cover, I think this is where a good point where I'm going to detach the cord here and give you a little tour of the studio here. And the first thing,
yeah, go ahead.
The first thing I'm going to show you is what I'm working on right now. This is the new cover. There. Now you can see it, right?
Fantastic.
Steve, how big is that painting?
Yeah, good question. I was just about to answer that. It's 20 by 30 inches.
And what's it on? What's the material underneath?
It's illustration board.
Yeah.
And it's painted with opaque watercolor and colored pencil.
What's the good board, man? You on Crescent board?
Yeah, it is. That's the only illustration board there is, I think. Here, do you want to hold it, Super? Okay. Little Jessica's going to hold things. So here's the area that I work with right here. And you can see the colored pencils that I have in the two water dishes. And here's the opaque watercolor that I work with right here, based on the gouache. And there's my John Pipe palette right there.
Man, that's sexy. You know what's funny is, like, you see those colors and they look like rude colors.
Yeah.
It's the rude palette.
That's the rude palette right there, yeah. And a lot of guys work with small palettes. I don't know why they do that. I have no idea. And if I want to, this is all water soluble. So if I want to clean the palette, which you want to do often, you just wipe it off. A lot of paper towels.
What's the best brand of watercolors these days?
That's any kind of professional brand. Winsor Newton, M. Graham. Everyone knows the right brands. And another thing that I'm doing right now that other people have no idea that I'm big on is these Chinese brushes. I mean, I paint sometimes the entire picture with this one brush right here. And the only other brush that I use is the big flats, the 1-inch flats. But you can get incredible detail with this brush right here. And I learned that from some of the watercolors that I watch on YouTube to learn watercolor better.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. That's so cool that you maintain that student mentality and are watching YouTube videos for this sort of thing in the same way that anybody is, from this amateurish level to student level to young professional. That's a cool note.
Well, it's no fun to pretend you're anything but a student, because that's really what you are your whole life. We've got some files over here. These are my files that I store all my reference material in.
And this is the stuff that you've had that going on since the 70s?
Yeah, the late 70s, when my teacher taught me how to put one of these together right here.
That's so
cool. Jessica did a good job with this here. Are you able to see this, Super? Okay. And let's see. I'm going to move this chair out of the way. And down here are some more files, and some more brushes, and some more acrylics and other mediums, things like that.
It's a very well-behaved puppy.
Hound dog. Here's hound dog. And I'm going to move you over to the next station that I have in my game room, my converted game room, and that's the animation desk.
Which should have a built-in light table, right?
Yeah, here's the animation desk right here. This is the desk that Doug Wiley called me up one day and said, "Look, I've got this desk that I've used my whole career, and I'm not really using it anymore. Would you like to come and take it away?" I said, "Yeah, you don't got to ask me twice, Doug." The thing was so big, we had to open up a window and move it out that way. It wouldn't have fit through a door. He said, "Just bring a pickup truck." So I did, and this is a genuine, for real with a disc animation desk right here. And here, I'll show you what I've been working on. This is all stuff for the Nexus show that I've been working on forever. And if you can see how this limited animation stuff works, there's the main drawing, and then there's Sandra pointing right there.
That's so
And
sweet.
that's as basic as it works right there. Can you see that okay?
Oh yeah.
Good. But I've been for the last like year or so, I've been really hardcore into learning animation. And I find it fascinating. It's just the kind of challenge I need in my life right now. So when I need a breather or I need to do something different, I just come over to the desk here and just practice this stuff. And I'll take still shots off the TV for my favorite shows to examine how it works. So I'm not just learning how to do the bouncing ball to learn the bouncing ball. I'll learn from the still shots and then go back to see how the bouncing ball applies to the stuff I see on the actual show. Like those Gloop and Gleep guys from the Herculoids, it's just nothing but a bouncing ball. So I go back and apply the basic principles to the more complex principles to learn the art form that way.
I've been super into doing hand animation as well. And I was reading this interview with Carl Barks in those Conversations books. The lesson that gets you into Disney at the time, like in the 40s or whatever, it was you have to animate a waving flag.
Yeah, it's the way they call it the wave principle. It's nothing more than a dog's tail waving or hair moving like this. It's all the same thing. It's this foundational to our artists is the cube and the sphere and all that kind of stuff. It all breaks down to the very simplest things, and in time, you start to bridge the complex stuff into the simplest stuff, and the simplest stuff are things like this. So it's just learning this stuff it's my life's work is learning these things. This is an exposure sheet right there, and this is the way they used to do it. This is the way I'm learning it. Eventually, if I get my show, we'll convert these things to the computer things. But for right now, this is how I want to learn things.
So are you making that exposure sheet yourself?
Yeah.
So you create you make like an MP3 or something and then go through the frames?
Well, I don't even know what an MP3 is. I just know, a physical sheet. This is Sundra 1 and then 2 and 3, and you time it out on a stopwatch.
Right.
Turn it on, and let's see. She's gonna go from here to here to here, and okay. So I go up here and 117. Well, let's see. That means she's going to have at least 24 frames between 24 and 30. So she's going to be like 26 frames. So I need 26 drawings. But if she's on 2, I can cut that in half to 12. So I can only do the most minimal of math because the math part of my brain is almost infinitesimally small. But I work with what I have. This is some of the art books that I've accumulated over the years. So I'm always referring to those. And down here on the floor are some of the hundreds and hundreds of pre-production things I've done for the Nexus show. These are mouth charts for Sandra to show the animators how she looks when she moves her mouth. These are critical, so people know how to draw them. These are folders right here. This is Sandra sitting and standing. I've got 3 of these folders because they keep growing and growing. And this is what they look like. So I've got the basic drawing, and then I've got close-ups and then mouth charts and tilts of the head and, things like that. I'm often quick to point out that no show in history has ever had as much pre-production work as the proposed Nexus TV show. And that's what I do. That's what I do in my spare time. There's some mouth charts that go with the face you just saw. There's ray blast coming out of her little device down there.
Such great figures.
Yeah, all of these are done on 12 field paper by me. So basically, every imaginable pose and then specific poses I've already got done for the show. So I think when we actually get the production, if and when, I don't know how much these guys working with me are actually going to have a chance to do, but I still need probably at least 40 people to help me do the entire show. But it's basically 90% of it is already done to ensure that it's going to be looking the way I want it to. Here's the wall right here of all this stuff that I just got on the wall right here. This poster is done by one of my favorite all-time artists, Reese Sturson. He gave me this when I was visiting him. I've known him for a good 20 years, and he's the greatest living illustrator to me. No one even comes close to him. He's so good. I've been studying his work for so long. He's just the greatest to me.
Yeah, great documentary about him.
What's that?
There's a great documentary that people can enjoy about him.
Yeah, and I wish I had more. He's kind of going health-wise, but I just told Janelle the other day. I said I'd give anything if I had more times to visit him, and some of my greatest times have been just being with him in the studio, and just relaxing and talking about things. And I won't have a chance to have this anymore with him. And I was telling Janelle, I always want more. No matter how much I get from somebody, I always want more. But he gave me this right here, and I have so many good memories of being with him. So this is the model couch right here. You can see I'm preparing to do a new painting of Chloe here. And she sits on the model couch. Right, Chloe?
Some pooch portraits.
Yeah. This is paper. Every imaginable kind of paper that I work with right here. Watercolor paper, pastel paper, illustration board, white media board, everything imaginable. Here's some oversized paper that I bought when I was overseas. It's huge. They don't sell this in the States, so I bought it here. Here's some more reference books right here. You can see that. Tons and tons of art books. And here's some more work on the Nexus TV show. This one says Nexus in ship, Nexus in action, Nexus firing, supporting characters, Horatio headshots. And down here is some of the animation that I've done that needs to be tested. And we don't have a testing setup here, but I'm hoping to get one soon so I can see how these things actually move. The encyclopedias, I bought those back in 1980, and they're invaluable. You can never do without those. And over here, we have the oil painting area. You're always going to want to have one of these for any artist. Anyone that doesn't work in oil should be ashamed of themselves. This is the most time-honored medium there is. And you can see what I've got going on here on the actual easel. This is a commission painting of here of Dale Arden from Flash Gordon. And there's the actual canvas that I'm working on. That's 30 by 40. And to the left here is the reference material that I'm using to work from. A lot of studies that go on, charcoal studies of faces, and the leg studies there from Jessica that I shot outside. And over here is the palette that I work on, and all the mediums and the brushes that I have. Very exciting place to work. Down here are all the materials and extra brushes that I need to work with. So the difference between what I have going on here compared to when I lived at the Y as a student, as a kid, as a 20-something, is you don't got to move everything out of the way with the single setup that you have. Everything is a different station, is a permanent thing. So if you want to work in oil, you just go and everything's set up and ready to go. Over here is the pastel area right here. So every medium that I've ever wanted to work with has a separate station. These little cabarets that I built by myself. I'm not a woodworker, but I learned. I could draw them, and I just went out over to Home Depot and got the wood and built them myself. You can see all the pastels that I've gotten over the years. I don't have a million of them like some of these snobs have. I just have the basic. But, I built this right here too for my specs. If you can draw them, you can make them. Just the right height with all the right compartments. So
That's a gorgeous setup, man.
That's a beautiful
yeah,
studio.
it's just great. You're surrounded by all the things you need. Everything is what I call fingertip access. And here's the little thing that I'm working on right now. So,
Will you work on all of that stuff a little bit each day, or just you go by what you're interested in?
well, my life is basically over there drawing the comics and stuff. But when I get the urge, or if I'm going to be doing something that I know is coming up in say pastel, I'll come over here and prep myself and start getting used to the pastel again. Because I always want to prime myself to get ready for something. It's better to be prepared than not prepared, because this is something that you have to get your feet wet all over again. And besides, it's just fun. All this stuff is fun for me. So to have a chance to go back to these different mediums here is just part of the fun of being an artist.
Steve, are you selling all of that art? Like, is that a study, a commission,
It's a study. These are things I do just for the fun of it. Because art is supposed to be fun, and I want to have fun. This is nice Canson paper that I work on. And then no artist wants to be without their own sink and fridge, mini fridge. You don't have to go into a separate sink to get wash your hands off and all that kind of stuff.
Wives and partners appreciate that singular sink in the art room as well, so that you don't get black all over the sink at the kitchen.
Yeah. If you're with your wife and she sees you getting her sink dirty, she's not going to like that. And on occasion, I'll pour down one of these right here, assuming it works. Just to keep my energy level up. And here's a Xerox machine that I use all the time.
I was going to ask you if the Xerox was a big part of your process for blowing up thumbnails. Or
It
what?
is, yeah. Especially the fact that I can reverse things to see the flaws in the work. If the eyes are askew or things like that. I've got tons of works in progress. This is a watercolor of Gwen Stacy. That is not finished, but I'm looking forward to finish it someday. A lot of things got started and never finished. I think a lot of artists know about that. But this is just one of the many, many studies I do just to keep learning about watercolor. I've got the same thing going on with oil over here. canvases over here. These are all oil studies that I've done. Just little things that I learned by doing, just to keep my hand in what it's like to work with thick oil paint.
That's so gorgeous.
And sometimes I'll set up little still lifes and do flowers and things like that. And that's what they look like. Things like this. And it's all in the name of fun and just learning new things.
I kind of love those the paintings that have like all the studies on one canvas. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And then finally, we have the wall of the rest of the books right here. These are all my sketchbooks up here. These go back to high school here in my early 20s. And these are the ones that go on from there up to 37, sketchbook 37. A lot of them are all beat up because I use them.
Yeah, I noticed that looking at your newest sketchbook. One of the things that I really liked is when you see the paper part, not the spine, you see the warp, and you know that there's some watercolor and some media on those pages.
Yeah, they've definitely been used, sometimes even abused. My comic collection goes over here, but most of these things are empty right here. Because there's very few books that I've wanted to keep over the years. So these are only the Grandmaster works. Here's all the Kirby FFs, the Thors and the Caps, Mandy Demon, Kirby's Fourth World. All the great stuff has survived and it's intact. So
what are some of the surprising pieces that might be in there? You named all Kirby stuff. So what else does Steve Rude like?
Well, there's Master of Kung Fu's, there's Burns FF, there's Spider-Man's, there's Kirby 70 stuff, there's the Badgers, there's Concrete, Johnny Quest, there's actually Omaha in here.
Omaha would be it.
There's some Alex Ross stuff. There's my friend Glenn Orbeck, who was my teacher at the Calabasas Art School. This is the really good stuff. Either stuff mostly stuff that I've either revered over the years or recent stuff that I can learn from. There's on occasion recent books that have come out that I've been sent or whatever, and I recognize how good they are, and I'll keep those as just keeping my brain intact with what they're doing now and how things have evolved and changed, and just look at them and be reminded of the direction things are going in, because they're wildly divergent with the way things are going, and that's a real healthy thing. And I think most of them have nothing to do with Marvel or DC. They're all things that are self-generated, and I think that's very healthy. People are just taking things into their own hands and just self-producing. So that's the trend I predict is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. People want to have their own say in things, and they're not going to wait to get permission from an editor that's going to get back to them in a year. The waiting time is over. They're just going to launch themselves into things and get on with it. Very healthy. So we'll go back to the main desk here that we started with. Bodie, you want to be part of the action here? So that is the entire studio right there.
Thank you so much for giving us that tour, man. It's super inspiring to see.
Live in the studio, and I get up, early, and I work till about 7, and then I'm pretty drained. And then I'll try to pickle my brain so it doesn't obsess about work after that. And I'll just get up the next day and do the same thing over and over, 7 days a week.
What do you do to pickle your brain?
I watch YouTube videos. Usually they're art videos. Crazy, huh? Watercolor videos or conspiracy videos about how crooked people are. I love to watch good movies, good according to me, things that are well done. There was a Jackie Chan movie with Pierce Brosnan. It was called, I don't know, I remember what it was called, but there was some kind of IRS, no, not IRS, but it was some kind of a bomb thing where his daughter was, Chan's daughter was killed. And he had to go after the people that had killed her, some Irish mob types. And it was just so well done. And I just delight in seeing movies well done. I'm trying to teach Jessica about editing right now and how precise the art form is, and how when something is so well done, you don't notice it. You only notice it when it's bad. Like the difference between a person grabbing for a gun, this direction, and then turning in this direction has to be absolutely precise. And I just love it when people are 100% of what they do. That's exciting to me. And the people that are bad at it, well, I learn from them too. I learn what not to do.
Right. Steve, thank you so much for the tour. Thanks for the conversation. I believe that that direct market version of Nexus that you showed off is going to be in the October previews. So that is something that's going to be orderable for the audience. We did an episode on that book not too long ago, a couple weeks back. Is there anything else on the horizon that you want to let people know about, including your social media, before we get out of here?
Yeah, and I think I'll let the family expert kind of explain that to you, and that would be my daughter Jessica. So Jessica, why don't you come up here and tell them all the things that I am unfamiliar with in life, anything to do with computers. So come on up here and just give them the word.
Yeah, and thanks for setting this up for us, Jessica.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's no biggie. So we posted a couple videos on Steve's channel. We have the Kickstarter, of course, which is going to be really exciting. I'm excited for that with the new cover and the bigger volume and everything. For the most part, I think as far as social media wise, for people who don't know, I run the social media stuff, and I've just been kind of giving updates about the Kickstarter. We uploaded a Kickstarter trailer to our YouTube channel, which I think looks really cool. So yeah, I'm just about the Kickstarter right now, and so the Gormano Kickstarter, the 9x12. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that we're working on right now. So that's kind of our main focus.
So we're talking
right now.
Yeah, we're talking Instagram, we're talking YouTube, and there's a pretty robust Facebook page. I think I see videos of Uncle Steve showing up every now and then when I get on Facebook.
Yeah, so we have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We have Threads, which is part of Instagram now. We have YouTube. I've just been posting about the Kickstarter through there, kind of getting everyone hyped up. I think we're almost at $10,000 in pledges on the Kickstarter. So we're just trying to get those numbers up and see how far we can go.
Sweet. Well, get us that link to that Kickstarter. We'll put that in the video, and this goes live 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, so hopefully we can help goose those numbers a little bit.
Yes, that would be awesome. I'm excited for that. Yeah.
Super cool. Jess, thank your father. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you for setting this thing up. And if you're good to go, I'm good to go. Take care.
Thank you.
Ed and Jim, thanks again so much. We'll see you next time, and thanks again.
Take care.
Steve.
Bye, guys.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell so that we can notify you when new videos are available. Kayfabe-tober is still upon us, and these are your drawing prompts. Do not run out of steam. Make sure that whenever you post these images, you got to tag us, you got to @ us, you got to let us know that these drawings exist so that we can share, retweet them as much as possible, signal boost your accounts, man, get you some more followers, and we get to enjoy your creative work. We're a daily YouTube channel, and with more than 1,500 videos in our coffers, you might not have seen everything. Go hit the little magnifying glass on the front page of the Cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel, and I've noticed you guys have been doing that because we've been getting some comments on some pretty obscure videos, so thank you so much for digging into the channel. Search for your favorite titles, check out those comics, and if we have not yet talked about your favorite comics yet, you must let us know. put something in the comments so that we can push those comics a little bit higher on our to-read stacks.
And whenever you find the favorite cartoonist or favorite comic book, share those videos. It's how we grow this channel. We're not buying advertising elsewhere. We rely on you guys to spread the good word.
Yeah, good call, Jimmy. We have a Patreon that you can directly support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. The King Kayfabers on the Patreon are hanging out with us right now. They hang out with us every morning when we record our stuff. They get a leg up on the Kayfabe effect that way through this private stream. They have access to every video before anybody else. And we always record one extra video so that when Jimmy and I decide to go on some travels, we can still keep the daily content coming. So as of this recording right now, there might be about 25 videos that Gen Pop has not seen. So you could take advantage of that before we put those videos out live. Ultimately, the videos are brought to you by the books that we make, and before you is a small sample of our bibliography. But Jimmy, let the people know what is coming out soon.
My next book release is Street Angel, Princess of Poverty. This will be out in November from Image Comics. You can pre-order it now at your local comic shop or online, and we ask that you do that. This is an Image book, and they need to know how many of these to print, so let them know that you want a copy. I am also self-publishing zines and comic books lately. You see the BW zine here, 1986, and True Crime Funnies featuring nonfiction stories. These are all available on my website, jimrugg.com, or patreon.com/jimrugg. And October 26th, I'm going to have a big holiday fall sale where you can stock up on this stuff and some of my other zines and minis that you may have missed. Hulk Grand Design is my contribution to the Grand Design mythos, and basically out of print. So if your comic shop has a copy and you don't, you may want to pick that up sooner rather than later, because Marvel Comics does not keep this stuff in print. If you haven't picked up a Hulk Grand Design yet, they are getting more and more scarce. So grab those now while you can.
October 17th, the Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus hits bookstores. October 18th, it hits comic shops. Scoop this up. About 75% of the print run has been accounted for. So we're playing with slim margins of which books are available right at this moment. So scoop it up sooner than later. It's the best book I've made. It's the 10-year anniversary of Hip Hop Family Tree. It's the 50th anniversary of hip hop as a culture. And it's gift-giving time. It's time to start planning those Christmas presents. And for the rap music lover in your life, especially if they don't know that this comic exists, this is going to blow their freaking minds. Not the only holiday effort to come out in 2023. In November comes the X-Men Grand Design trade paperback. This is going to collect the trilogy of X-Men Grand Design comics that I put together. So when you're out there getting your orders for Street Angel, Princess of Poverty, go tell the shop that you want your X-Men Grand Design trilogy trade paperback as well. There are a couple out-of-print volumes of that, so this will be your way to get them all inside of one handy paperback book. The focus the past couple of years has been Red Room, and there are 3 trade paperbacks of Red Room that will be out in total. 2 are on the stands as we speak, Antisocial Network and Trigger Warnings. Crypto Killers is coming out in January, and I do have to let you know that I've been working on daily strips for the past year. It's called Switchblade Shorties, and at my Patreon, you're going to be able to check those strips out before I start to release them on a daily basis beginning January 1st, 2024. Thank you all who are supporting the Patreon at that level and reading these strips well ahead of time. One of the gratifying things, Jimmy, is that people are developing their favorite characters, which speaks to the ability to get different personality into those characters.
To get those characters over.
Yes, for sure. So the books are the most important part to keeping the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel solvent and functioning. But there are other ways to directly support Cartoonist Kayfabe, and Jimmy, you could let the people know what those are.
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe e-newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, hats, mugs, stickers, and more at our spread shop. That link is also under this video in the show notes.
There you have it. The many ways to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. We thank you for your patronage. Jimmy, please give the people their final marching orders and we'll be on our way.
Read more comics.